We are live.
All right, welcome everybody to P.A.W meeting today. Thank you for joining us either at home on our YouTube live channel. We have Brittany Meekum and Janice Wilcox and Jimmy Burtonshaw, along with Mrs. DeGraw and Mrs. Hall from here at the district office. We'll go ahead and get started with our P.A.W meeting today. Let's see, I'm going to share the screen here, Mrs. DeGraw.
Oh, yep.
Ready?
There you go.
Okay. Let's pull up the agenda. So today's agenda, we'll start off with the school calendar. Just an update. 2 weeks ago when we had our board meeting, the board did decide between whether to go with a 4-day calendar or a 5-day hybrid, similar to what we've done this year. The board did vote in favor of a 5-day hybrid option, and so that is what we are exploring. After I had that initial 5-day hybrid out there as a discussion option, I had board members, even ones that voted for the 4-day, say, is there any way that we can extend the spring break? So I'll show you a little bit of what the conversation and where it went and how this process happened. And so this 5-day hybrid option 1, this is the option that I had initially just to compare to the 4-day calendar. This calendar here is nearly identical to the days and time that we are currently on this school year. One of the things as I've been looking at calendars, it really depends on the year, every 7 to 8 years, how the calendar cycles. I'm not a mathematician, so I'm not going to pretend to know everything with that. But sometimes things just fall into place just a little bit better on when you can start school, when you can't. A couple things that I've been keeping in mind. I don't want to start the exact week after the Mud Lake Fair. So I take the Mud Lake Fair, I give us a week and start that following week. That's what we've done. According to the survey results that I sent out earlier, the indication is that we want to keep a 2-week harvest break. And so on the initial calendar, I had that split. Some calendar years that will be split just because the way that September and October, and I'm talking like 2 or 3 years ahead, but the next couple of years, we're trying to get harvest to start pretty close to the 24th of September. That's kind of what I've heard from the other meetings from the farmers. So sometimes it might start in the middle of the week if we want to hit that date. And it's so tricky here to hit all the different farm types. Where in Hamer you have a lot of sand, things grow differently than they might down here in Tarleton. And so with this option 1, school would start on the 23rd. There would be a 2-week harvest. The end of the first trimester would end on the 23rd, the day before Thanksgiving break. That gives us 52 days in the first trimester. The second trimester will go until March 3rd. A couple of things I was trying to figure out, and again, these are still drafts, and I've sent out a survey to the teachers, so I'm getting feedback from them. On parent-teacher days, this last year, when we had parent-teacher conference in the spring, and I just want to say, since people are here, welcome Annie Dowling and welcome Pam Smith.
Hi.
I appreciate you guys coming today. The parent-teacher conference, I'm not quite sure the best time to do that. When we ran it in October of this last year, we had state volleyball, which took away parents and also teachers. And so just the way that it ran this year, one example is Mr. Hall. He was not able to be at the fall parent-teacher conference because of his daughter being in state volleyball. And then he also wasn't in it this last time because of basketball. Now, granted, the basketball game in January was not scheduled for that day, but because of COVID, we had to reschedule it. And so I was thinking that on one hand, if we pushed it back to the first week of November, it's still 2 weeks before the final of the trimester. I guess if there's a kid that's struggling, you could have 2 weeks to really push hard to finish. but we shouldn't have any school conflicts because you're between volleyball, you're between girls basketball. Football could still be going, but there wouldn't be a game necessarily on a Thursday. They usually run them on a Friday or a Saturday. So that's the idea behind it. Whether that's right or wrong, it could be like, again, these are just calendar ideas. This is option one. The other one would be also with January. I'm not sure if I bring it back down to the 27th, where we had that this last time. If we ran it by the 13th, I don't know. Again, that's one of those things that I'm looking for feedback from the teachers, but I want to try to find a time. The later we push it, we'll get into girls district, boys district. It just really makes it difficult. So
I have a question. How many weeks are in a trimester?
it really depends.
Roughly?
Roughly, so 52 days, 7 weeks.
And so is parent-teacher conference usually about the 3 week, 3.5? Like, I would prefer parent-teacher conference to be at about halfway.
Yeah.
So that I'm like, okay, this is what I gotta push, instead of pushing it so close to the end that I'm like, hey guys, you only have a week and a half to 2 weeks.
So
maybe that's not possible, but that's where I'm like, I would much rather
Yeah.
be up a little bit so that it gives us more
So
time
let's-
if we have.
So let's
to
walk through the
work,
calendar and go down that, and Amy Emerson, thank you for coming. Making sure everybody at home knows who our folks are when they hear their voices. So if we start school and we go 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks in, then we're off for 2 weeks for potato harvest.
Uh-huh.
Is it better to have a parent-teacher conference right before harvest? Or do we come back and have it the first week after harvest? That's gonna be right in the middle.
And then how many weeks until the end of the try?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So really it's right, the 22nd, 21st and 22nd would be right in the middle, but that's where our district and state volleyball tournaments, and they usually run those, and Liz Moss is here.
So I would rather it be the week before, when you're not dealing with
So-
districts.
So if you go the 14th, 15th, I'm gonna hear probably from the teachers saying, well, we just came here, now we had a 2-week break, now I saw the kids for 3 days.
Oh, true.
So that's where I'm going through. I don't know,
Mhm.
like, they're good points, Annie.
Not a lot happens during harvest with the teachers. If you did the week before, then if they aren't working or if you're not working, you can work and do more things with your kids during harvest. As a parent, I'd rather know before harvest than after, because nothing is
That's a
going
good
to
point.
progress during harvest
That is true.
at that point.
I like that.
Good point. Yep.
I would also vote for a time that the teachers can be there, because nothing is more frustrating as a parent to plan on, okay, I'm going here to meet with my kids' teachers, I'm making the effort, and have 3 out of the 5 not there.
Mhm.
That was really been frustrating to me the last 2 parent-teacher conferences.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it up another frustration too, the time frame. At the elementary, you've got 8 hours to go visit one teacher that teaches max 20 to 30 students. I've got like kind of 2 hours in the evening to go visit my junior high's 5 teachers and my high school students' 5 teachers. That is like mathematically impossible. Because the one time I waited in line like 20 minutes for each teacher, So I think in the 3 hours minus the dinner break, I got to visit with like 3 or 4 teachers when I really needed to visit with 10. Because I'm a parent that wants to be involved and talk with my kids' teachers and make sure we're all on the same page.
How would it work on a Friday if we took one of the teacher professional days and just had the whole day off?
I think we need a whole day.
I think it'd be great. I thought that was the original.
I know some feel like it's a waste of time because maybe as high school parents, some don't go, but me personally, and I think a lot of us here, we like to be involved with our kids and like to have, and not feel rushed. Like when I can see there's a line of 20 parents behind me, I'm like, bare minimum with this teacher trying to gather information, and there's still a lot of unanswered questions. I feel like anyway. And I feel like the teachers, like actually most of them are very kind and want to visit with me and help my child. So I don't feel like from the teacher's end, that they're doing a bad job with parent-teacher conference. I think the limited time is really hard to get through the information we need.
And this is good feedback. And besides, this is another thing that maybe needs to become more of the norm. If you want to meet with your teacher on any of these professional days, you can set up an appointment
I
with
was
them.
just gonna ask that,
Yeah,
if
That's
any
allowed?
Friday is
Ab-
allowed for parents
absolutely.
to come in and talk, because I wasn't able to make it to some of my teachers this time too.
And really needed to.
Well, there's a couple that I really needed to, but I thought, there's nothing I cannot get down there.
Yeah.
You know, and
and
same thing, I can't get down there in the 2 hours that's available on Friday,
Or if they're not there.
or if they're
I
not
didn't
there or
know
whatever,
it.
so,
right.
so that's good to know.
Yeah, we the afternoons during this time. Generally, all of our training is in the morning on these.
How do you
on
like that I'm trying to look at you through the tripod?
That's
like-
all right. I can kind of
I feel like
hide.
super weird.
I'm like
when
hiding from Pam up here a little
She's
bit.
giving the one eye.
It's like, oh.
Sorry, but I'm like, I like to see your face when you're talking. so I'm trying to- Okay, go ahead.
No, that's a great point, and that's something that, you know, we can do a better job of communicating. If you would like to, you can send your teachers an email, and say, can I come meet with you on an afternoon? 1 o'clock, usually we're completed. There's probably 2 or 3 professional days where we train into the afternoon, but a majority of the time we're done by 1 o'clock.
But communication would be key on that. And I
Yes.
think most of the teachers, you know, if we reached out,
Yeah,
I
and
think
to
that
know,
would be
I didn't,
good.
you know, because those professional days, I don't want to interrupt those, but if
Yeah.
there is time, like, that we could go, that's a great option, because I did ask one of the teachers, like, my child only has so many mentoring minutes, and she has a lot of stuff to make up at this time. Can we do before or after school? And a lot of them were not real excited about that option, so I figured as a parent, they're not gonna wanna visit with me before or after school.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing whether they're supposed to be there or not, they were not excited about those type of meetings.
Well, the
A few of
professional,
them.
they are on contract, and as
Yeah.
part
That's
of
perfect, then.
educators, we have to find a way to be able to work well with the parents. And
there was one teacher that emailed me and said, hey, I'm not available on Thursday, come in anytime Friday. And so I knew, okay,
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That type of communication would have been appreciated.
And we
For those
definitely
that can't
had
be there.
the
Yeah.
scheduling perfect storm on our last parent-teacher conference where we had to reschedule the Teton basketball game. And, you know, that takes away Mr. Hall and Mr. Hadley and Mr. Mackey. And so,
The courtesy of an email, I'm not gonna be there, would be very much appreciated, so we can schedule a different time to meet with those. Because I know things happen, and like you say, it's not perfect, but
so,
communication would be awesome.
so let me just go back and, so one thought is if we had a parent-teacher conference before potato harvest, it allows teachers to also potentially have some, you know, these are some things you need to work on during the break. I like that. Again, we'd have to look at the Thursday volleyball, but again, maybe if it was just on that Friday beforehand, and we just open it up on Friday, that could be a possibility as well.
we have
I like
football
that.
on Friday.
They'll have football on all those Fridays,
But
but,
if it's in the day,
but,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be an issue.
yeah, the parent-teacher conference in the day is gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Those will all be in the afternoon. So this, again, this is option 1 for those of you that came in a little bit late. This was the option that was compared to the 4-day. And almost immediately after the board meeting, I had people saying, well, where can we get a full spring break? And so again, going back just to repeat to those that came, what usually drives is we have the Mud Lake Fair. We want 1 week. That's gonna be the week where the teachers come in, and then we start the second week. Generally, we've started on a Wednesday for most calendars, but again, we were trying to have a calendar where we had about 162 days, which was similar to this year. So the first trimester ended up having 52. The second trimester, and again, this parent-teacher conference, I'm not sure where to put it.
January is just always such a hard one.
And maybe that the time we had it, but maybe again, we explore the Fridays more. If we explore that Friday
I think so.
and just take it off, makes it a little bit easier. But we had, with this calendar, there'd be 56 in the middle. And then this would have our calendar be completed by, before Memorial Day on the 30th. So those are the things that I'm trying to do. You're going, okay, how do you squish it all in? How do you make that all work? And so when my one board member asked, is there any way you can do this? And it was actually a board member that voted for the hybrid that said, okay, I want the hybrid, but I also want the full week. And I'm going, The only way to do that is to eliminate contact days. This calendar and option 2 both have well over the state minimum of contact time. It's one of those things that our calendars the last couple of years, and even this year, we are well beyond the state minimum, which is a good thing to have kids there. But there's also flexibility to have fewer days with the kids. And so draft 2.
Does that account for like your snow days too? Like you're kind
Yes.
of in your mind, if we have
Yes.
to do snow days, we still can meet our minimum.
On either one of these.
Yeah, but
Very
this one,
easy.
That goes into figuring the calendar as well,
Yes.
correct?
But on option 2, you only have 52 days in the second try, and the other one you had 56. So
Correct.
that seems like pretty short time for snow days unless we're way
So
over.
so this one here, we have it built in, it just takes away time in the class. So this calendar has, here, I'll show you. So this is what I send to the State Department when we calculate the days. And so the regular days this would be this is actually option 2 that I ran just because I wanted to have the shorter calendar just to make sure we met it. So there's 151 full days, and there would be 5 half days, which makes it 156 contact day calendar. With the student contact hours of 6.61 per day, you're able to count 22 hours of in-service and training towards that. That's just what the state law allows you to do. That actually built in, and this would be for 9 through 12, it builds in 7 extra days. You can see that the elementary, they have quite a few days built up. This one here is not accurate because it's a combination of both. You can see that they have plenty of different days. And some people are gonna ask, well, why can't we just take more time off the elementary then? Why can't the elementary be this? And some of the things we have to worry about is I have contracts that have to be equal among all teachers. The other thing is if I end school half a day early in the elementary, but keep it full day in the junior high school, now all of a sudden what do we do with the buses? And so you have different things like transportation that come into play with it. You have teacher contracts, trying to make sure it's equal. How do you have, because there's been talk in the past about harvest. Well, why don't we have elementary come for 1 week of harvest? What do I do with teacher contracts on that? It just makes it a little bit. So you can see that all of these have extra time built in. And back to your question, Liz, yes, 52, if there are snow days on that one, we would have to figure out another way of working with the kids. That would be a drawback to number 2. But I don't know if it's a deal breaker or not. That's the thing that I'm trying to decide. Like this year, knock on wood, we really haven't had any, even though I have 58 days built into this one because the year before we had like 3 or 4 different days. Well, another option that we haven't had to use this year is our late start, which when it's cold, when it's -20, I think we can have a late start and start 2 hours later, and that way we still have time with kids. So there's things that we're building in to help with that. But I don't know, that's the thing, because they're all situations and they're all real, but I'm not sure what's a deal breaker and what's not. But I do like the things I'm hearing right now about more parent-teacher time, looking at that parent-teacher conference for a Friday. On this option 2, let's see.
Can I say one more thing about the option 2?
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
I really don't like,
Uh-huh.
is ending the first trimester after a week of Thanksgiving break.
Mhm.
You take them off a week and then you have to come back and do finals in the high school after you've been off for a whole week. Seems, I don't like that.
So let's discuss the pros and the cons of that, because you're right. Like, one could look at that and say, you'd have a full week off, now you come back and take finals. The tricky part is we could take those 2 days and have kids come to school on the 22nd and 23rd. But I'm not gonna have 52 days. It's gonna squish it to about 50. Or I have to end the trimester in the middle of the week, like you saw that on the other calendar. And that's also not a good idea. On future calendars, because I have a,
So the main difference between option 1 and 2 is 2 is longer Thanksgiving and spring break.
Well, and you start later too.
And you start 2 days, so really it's six different days. So if you have option 1, you add 2 days to each trimester, essentially. You start 2 days earlier, there's 2 days that you've gained in school. If you start 2 days earlier, you could end on the 23rd. But this is also a time where we have about a third of the people that leave anyway on that. And so, it's not a better time to do it. I put together, let's see which calendar this one is. I put together all the way up to 2026 just to see what it would look like all the way through. And so this year it would be a full week. Next year, November, I'm on this other side. Next year it'd be a full week and end the same way. It'd do that for 3 years is what would happen. But then in 24, 25, just the way that the calendar goes and when we start, it would actually end before, and then you would have to go to those 2 days to pick up enough for the second trimester. So it's just because it evolves, there's no way to make sure it's consistent every single year. But for the next 3 years, that's how it could be. You put in there. So I don't know, what are other thoughts? Does everybody share the same concern that taking a week off at Thanksgiving, it's worse? Or like,
It's hard for high school students to have that week off and then come back and try to do a final.
Yeah, I asked Sage this morning, she said that's not a good idea.
It is hard.
so you're saying that you'd rather start on a Monday in August 23rd? Because that's about the only way that would work, is pushing it here. Oops, sorry. Got a lot of different things. So this one's option 2. Okay, so if I moved that back to Monday, we could be done by there.
So
Let me write that down.
on the second schedule, it's having, they don't have school on that Friday, so finals end on that Thursday, correct?
Mhm.
So if you did do a shorter Thanksgiving break, I don't, yeah.
You would-
You still would end on a Tuesday, not a Thursday. I was just trying to figure out how to start earlier, end on that could you would end on the Friday before that 19th, because that's a full week before Thanksgiving, correct? A full week before Thanksgiving, like if you did finals that week and on the 19th.
You have to put 4 more days into the try.
No.
3, because
Yeah, you'd have to, because I'm picking up 1, 2, 3, 4.
the 4 right there. Okay, and that's where you're trying to do.
So we'd have to do that. Now, if
So
we
it's already
really,
50, what did
so
you say?
so here's the thing, and I'm not trying to be controversial. Janice, I need your attention because I'm not trying to be controversial on this one. Because I'm gonna bring up harvest on it, because,
I don't want to distract her anymore.
yeah, because I'm not trying to whittle harvest, but if we whittled harvest, we could handle that.
Yeah.
Like, we could start on the 23rd. We come back and go the 7th and 8th. Your trimester could be done there.
On the 19th.
On the
Maybe we
19th.
whittle a teacher professional day and push that down.
I don't think we would have teacher professional days.
So
Why
the,
don't we change it? Instead of on the 3rd, have it on the 23rd.
what was that question? I didn't quite hear the question.
I'm just wondering, why instead of shortening harvest, why don't we put the teacher professional day instead of the 3rd? Why don't we put it on the 23rd of November or 22nd or
Say that again, the 3rd.
instead of December 3rd?
Well, part of the reason to have those placed where they're at, professionally speaking for the teachers, you start your school year, it's good to be able to have your teachers meet, have the things where they're getting back in on a plan and getting things put into place.
Sorry, the December 3rd, not the
I was gonna
2nd.
say, I think she's looking at a different one.
Yeah.
So the December 3rd one, that teacher professional day at the end of the try gives teachers a chance to put grades in. Where they finish the try and they're able to put grades in. And,
Yes, but I'm saying on calendar 1, option 1.
okay,
So if you go to option
Go
1.
up to the top.
yes. Okay, so on option 1,
and saying, why can't we move the December 3rd teacher professional day to the 23rd? I guess that doesn't matter, it's still a different trimester. so.
Yeah, it's, because that's a
That's
different.
your try, isn't it?
Your try does end on the 23rd with option 1.
What if the teacher professional day that's on the 20th, I need reading class or something.
Because
22nd to during that, so they have a teacher for professional day on both Fridays during harvest.
say that again.
So if you switched the teacher professional day, that's the 22nd right there. Yep, the October 22nd to October 1st. So the teachers would still, that'd be every other, like they have that next week, if they did 2 professional teacher days during summer harvest. And that day the kids would be in class on the 22nd.
On the 22nd of
October.
So basically.
Because they do need their days, but I think it'd be easier to move a teacher professional day during the try than at the end, or, I don't know, that's just, because then the kids could be in school that day,
So basically move the 22nd of October to
the first.
October 1st. So the full professional
So,
July
so then I would go to my staff and say, here's a harvest break. You don't have to be here Monday through Thursday, but you do need to be here Friday.
What if you did it Monday? Then let them be gone and come back to last Friday.
I could do
Monday
that.
the 27th. In September.
Because it doesn't have to be on a Friday, right? I mean, it's just a,
So what are we trying to accomplish here?
To
though?
get one more day of the kids in class
Before finals,
before
correct?
finals, so
Or
to move finals
Have finals
to
before Thanksgiving.
before Thanksgiving.
to the
Like
19th, to
adjusting
the
that.
19th.
19th.
Can I add a thought on this?
You're gonna need to find 2 days instead of just 1.
And starting a day earlier, so,
We can't start on Sunday.
well, I know, I'm saying we start on Monday, I'm just saying, how many days do we, that, we still need one more day that's found though, right?
Yeah, you'd need more than that. Yeah,
I think after any break, even after a weekend, if my kid has a test on a Monday or a Tuesday, we prepare for the weekend. So even though it is Thanksgiving break, if I know I'm coming back to finals, I would help my child prepare. We're not having Thanksgiving every day. I know it's a vacation, but I don't know, like we prepare, I think, a little bit differently.
well, your
So
finals,
after any break, when we come back or whatever, we're prepared to go back to school.
your finals
or
would
whatever.
be the 1st and 2nd.
I don't
It's
know.
just hard for if you think about like dual credit classes and things like that,
They can't study while they're on
well, they
break.
can, but
can, but-
it's,
A week off though is just a long.
Yeah.
Like, so you won't,
Think
you're
of when
worried
you
about
were
her
in
being in
school.
front of teachers, not just
And
like
I'm not
studying?
sure-
I'm just trying to understand.
I'm just saying end the
Because the dual
trimester
credit
before
one-
Thanksgiving.
It is a concern, but the dual credit also doesn't mesh very well with our trimester system anyway.
Thank you.
so is it not at that time,
Is what?
the finals?
The final for the class, how it was explained to me, I was asking Mr. Guimar this. Essentially, there's college credit that you get, and there's a certain amount of things that are required from the college to count as credit. But essentially, the way that those college credits usually set up is on a semester system. But with our trimesters, we still have to give a West Jefferson grade at the end of that trimester. So what they've essentially done is they take the whole curriculum for the dual credit. And if you say, okay, let's split that into 2 trimesters, you get 2 college credits. We're not giving 3 college credits, at least how I'm understanding it. I could be wrong.
So like Branson's in pre-cal right now and he's taking his dual credit pre-cal final next week. Even though the try isn't over until.
So I am
Yeah,
understanding that
Yeah,
right.
that's correct, because the college semester, whatever
Well,
college.
it should have ended now.
But he's taking the final for credit from the college.
Yeah. Because that semester
Even-
ended.
Even though he did bank a grade for West Jefferson at the end of the trimester. So at the end of the trimester, he still banked a grade for that. But this is the end of the college trimester or semester for the dual credit. And so there's no way,
I don't
there's
think
gonna be a lot of,
really-
there's gonna be a little pot of something that doesn't fit
Yeah,
when it's trimesters, and I'm not just with vacations, holidays, we're in a farming community where harvest is a priority. Like there's never going to be an equal amount of time. And as I'm hearing this, really having kids come back a week after Thanksgiving to take their finals after they have 2 days to get back into the routine of things and then take a test on a Wednesday, that's probably the least of the worry that I'm seeing right now. But I could be talked out of it on that one. I don't think that's.
Well, you've talked to the teachers, right? You said you sent a survey, because that would be important to consider in there. They would know how kids would fare.
Because here's gonna be another thing that happens when we have the November or those 22nd and 23rd. In 2024, if this is the way that we go, and we end the trimester on the 19th, which is kind of what Annie was talking about. What if we get to the 19th? We have to start these first 2 days of the trimester, first trimester 2, there to make sure we have enough days, generally speaking. Maybe not always, but if we have to come to that one, that's where teachers are gonna say, half my class is gone anyway. And so those were 2 wasted days in the second trimester. And so it just depends on who you talk to. There's always gonna be a pod somewhere that you can see how complicated and complex all of this is. Janice, you have a thought?
Well, I just wondered about the spring break. Is it teachers pushing for the week, or is it?
I don't know. I didn't ask the board member who contacted me whether it was teachers. It's probably not farmers because they want their.
Yeah, they're farming anyway by then.
But there is with the club that takes the American Heritage.
Right.
That's one consideration. That's not the pushing one.
Yeah.
But I've had others say that that's what they want to have. You can see in both of that wasn't really my own personal preference. I thought, let's get done. It's more important to me to be done by Memorial Day than have a full week of spring break.
Right, well, I mean, we were talking, and if people want a full week, they'll just take those 2 days off. I mean, people take,
Just like Thanksgiving.
I mean, yeah, or like go on vacations in January. We did that with our kids. We pulled them out for a week. It was fine, you know?
Well, yeah. So maybe what you're saying is just put a schedule up there and make people adjust.
No,
No, because it's gonna be fine. People are gonna do what they want to do anyway.
It's true, so
Yeah,
yeah, why
it's
are we
true.
so
So
worried
we're
about
about
this?
finals and
Yeah.
kids and stuff in the school. Parents are gonna take kids out if they wanna take them out. They're gonna take
they
them out.
are. And you know, my concern is we need the harvest break for our livelihood. And so I'm not gonna be picky and choosy, like, well, I also want, but I understand the finals thing. I don't have a kid in dual credit, but I suck at tests, so I wouldn't need to
Well,
be in front of a
maybe
teacher.
that's not an
If
issue.
it's
I
a
thought
non-issue
it,
for dual credit them.
yeah.
Oh,
But it
well,
still is,
But
a
the
big
testing,
change.
I'm not a test taker.
I'm gonna write that down.
I
I don't
don't
know.
like to take, I can tell you right now, I do not like to have a break and then
Yeah,
try to take it.
try to take
A
a
week
test.
later.
I would like,
yeah, some kids would be fine and some wouldn't. So I don't know.
Well, and really, and again, this is not a slam towards harvest, but harvest is hard on kids.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking at and I'm not saying I'm trying to push for that, but let's just call it what it is. You come back in and you have 5 weeks of getting in and getting going, and then you have 2 weeks of boom, it's completely off. And not saying that our kids are going to suffer eternally because of this, but it's just something that we have to work towards.
Yeah,
I
And
hated it when I had younger boys because it was hard to get them in the groove. And then, man, we got them out of the groove for those 2 weeks and it was really hard.
but
It's
it's
hard on the
really
teachers,
hard
too.
to get them in the groove.
but
Well, then let's
Yeah.
just skip Christmas break too. I mean,
Yeah, Christmas break.
Any
Sorry.
break is
Any
hard,
break.
everybody will
right,
adjust.
but
We're
you
all
know, I
going.
gotta throw it in for harvest break. It's hard, but is it that hard when they pull out a $1,500, $2,000 check to go to college or,
Yeah.
I mean,
there's always a trade-off. There's
There
a
is.
trade-off on everything that we have on the calendar. That it's
And I'm gonna throw my nephews in here. They were both, well, one was almost valedictorian and the other one was, so they worked harvest every year. It didn't seem to make them suffer. Kids will pull out of it.
Hey, we're surviving COVID. We can survive this.
That's
too.
right.
So,
And we're talking about like 1 or 2 days here and there, like I think, Mr. Williams, you're doing your best and considering a lot of stuff.
and from this, I'll see what the teachers, 'cause I surveyed the teachers. I'll see, and I haven't had anybody come back and say the week-long Thanksgiving is going to be detrimental to the testing period afterwards. But probably will have a little bit of an impact. Like I acknowledge that, yeah, that probably could impact it. It would be better if we could do it before. I'm just gonna petition that we move Thanksgiving back a week and we celebrate it
I vote
differently
yes.
than everybody
I
else.
support that. Have our own party, it's fine.
So, other than that, what are some other thoughts between option 1 and option 2 from a parent perspective? I have right now that parent-teacher conference more time. That's one that I'm gonna have. Keep an eye on that testing period after Thanksgiving. What else?
I think if it's consistent, like it's looking good. I mean, if we know like every other Friday for the most part, there's gonna be 1 or 2. But you're not throwing in a random, oh, but let's throw in like this Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
In the 4-day calendar, the draft calendar, and I know we're not going there, but there was blended learning days put in. Those aren't compatible with a 5-day calendar.
They
You're
would-
not planning on having blended
No,
learning days
no.
if we do a 5-day. Okay, that was just a
Intervention every day.
question. I
Yes.
didn't see them, so I was wondering.
Yeah, those were put in on the 4-day consideration on a Friday generally, just to allow us to intervene with the, on a 4-day, one of the concerns that people had is, oh, some of your
Less contact
less
time.
contact time with the kids. And so I think our system, we are setting up where we can utilize intervention during the day. The question is it really being used effectively right now? I think we can make it better. And I know the junior high is working on things to make it better. High school is working through some things, and I agree with that. I think we need to be better at utilizing that time.
So let's either utilize it better or let's get out of school a half hour earlier because.
Well, what we would do is just put 5 minutes back on in a class period. We're still gonna go the same amount of time.
Wait, are we talking about getting rid of the mentoring period or blending learning?
That they were bringing up, if mentoring is not being utilized efficiently and effectively, it'd be better to.
Okay, I just missed that. I thought we were talking about that.
And again, that's one of those issues where maybe we have 20% of the kids really taking advantage of it and 80% not. And I guess the question comes down to, do those 20% that are using it, are they really needing that? And would it hurt those kids if we did it? And that's the hard part, is how do we, there has to be some things that we motivate kids. Maybe we just have to be bigger pains in the butt during that time and take their phones away during that time. Will we have parent support on that? Or are we gonna have parents coming in and saying, no, let my kid have his phone during that time so he can text and Snapchat? Like, I'm serious, because that's really what's gonna happen.
Well, and the teachers get tired of having to police that.
The teachers do, but at the same time, it's really demoralizing when a teacher tries to do something and then a parent doesn't come in and support
Doesn't
that.
back it up.
That's hard, because in a way, whether it's fair or not, as schools, we're being asked to parent at times. And I don't want to get into that because that's hard. And that might be another discussion another time. Like, what do we do with cell phones? What do we do with?
I'm gonna write that down. Can we talk about that at the end? Because I actually do have a thought.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's put down the questions, because
I'm writing it down.
I would like to know, like, what do we do with that? So,
I have a thought about, Mr. Williams.
yes,
Is there any way to, if finals are that 3rd, like the week after Thanksgiving,
Uh-huh.
personally, for my kids that are older, I would rather them only have a shorter Thanksgiving break, so like on the first draft.
Mhm.
But could you do the shorter break for Thanksgiving and spring break, like kind of meet in the middle for both those? Maybe don't do a full, because I don't want to need a full, I know the kids are gonna leave if they're gonna leave, and if a third are gone, or about a third gone for Thanksgiving and for spring break. So what if you did offer those 2 more days for Thanksgiving and take a full break for spring break? Like, is there a way to do, does it have to be either or? Like, does it either have to be short for both of them or longer for both of them?
Because option 1 has shorter for
The
both, and
only-
option 2 has longer for both.
what will happen with that is, where do I end the first trimester, I guess. Let me look, I can play with that. Let me look at that
Does that make
afterwards.
sense? I don't know if did I say it?
So,
Short Thanksgiving.
So short
long
Thanksgiving,
spring
long
break.
spring break, something like that. Like, it would make,
And Annie will meet with you later and walk you through that.
No,
Sounds like
well-
she's got it figured out.
well, I'm just looking at it. No.
I had the same thought, Annie. Like, is it
I don't know
either
if that-
or, what do we?
I have that written down.
accomplish?
Let me
So-
look at that afterwards.
Because I do, if finals are that next week, it would be nice to have at least Monday and Tuesday, because then they only miss the 3 regular school days, then Sunday, Saturday. So they go Monday, Tuesday, and then the weekend, you know, the 5 days for break instead of 7, and then start the school again on Monday. The younger kids, I know those 2 days are pretty pointless. They're party days. When you have 2 days, sometimes it's hard for the younger grades to progress and keep on going forward. But the older kids could still study those 2 days, figure out what they need for finals, get assignments done.
Well, here's and I'm gonna ask the teachers that specifically, because here's what I think is going to happen, is, the high school, you're gonna have a class, and you have about 6 of them in a class. They're saying, I'm going to St. George this week, sorry. Can I take the test early? Can I take the test later? So then the teachers are trying to give the test before the end of the trimester anyway. And so there's really not, they're taking basically a week and a half to figure out how to test everybody on that. So I'll look into it though. Not trying to shut it down. I'm just struggling with
And I can see both ways, but I also, if a third are gone, do you let the third win for both things? Like, or do you let because if they're gonna be gone, the ones that are gone for Christmas and Thanksgiving are usually gone for spring break too. It's not like it's different thirds that are gone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
Just a thought.
another thing, depending on what the legislature chooses this year, we'll probably be going back to attendance-based funding. And
You
so,
think it will next year?
I do. And if it does go back to attendance-based funding, then those weeks hurt us.
So it does make a difference.
Like, there's so many different things that we're looking at and say, okay, how do I pay for the district? How do we make sure we maximize the money that we get from the state and keep everybody happy at the same time? But I'll look into that and follow back up with you. So,
Well, plus we'll be getting feedback from the teachers too, and we could ask them specifically about that.
Secondary teachers specifically.
Yeah, specifically secondary.
Some of them are elementary, but they'll figure
I
it
mean,
out. Like,
we appreciate elementary too.
So on option 2, you have 6 days of the teachers before school even starts. Do the teachers all come in for those 6 days? Like, really, are they gonna be there for that many days?
well, it's a contract day, and if they choose not to, they can take a sick or personal day, and if they break their contract, they can work for another district.
I mean, is it beneficial to have 6 days before the?
It really is.
They need that.
I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
remember, they like move their classes rooms completely out and clean, and so
Yeah.
it's like they have to
Yeah.
totally redo their classrooms every year, and on top of prepare for their classes and
they change right from the day before.
Yeah, there's not, looking at the calendar days and the time that we have, I'm trying to be as efficient as possible with the days. If we had shorter days on there, and let's say we took away the professional days, and we had shorter days in with kids, we'd still have basically similar to some of the same things. And then the fight that I'm gonna be having is, how do I make sure my teachers are trained? How do I help my teachers get trained? Because they're in school all day long. And if we're starting as early as we can in October, and we have a hardest break, not trying to throw that out, I'm not trying to just destroy that, but that's just part of the thing that we have to look at. And if we want to be done by Memorial Day, there's not a lot of other options that we have on there. And I guess some people see the value of the professional days differently, but from the research and from what I want to do to have our teachers trained, those are so essential for us to have. Those used to be the early out Fridays that also was on a calendar that people complained about, saying, well, hold on a second, so my secondary kids come early out, but then once every so often during the month, my elementary kids are gone. And so that's how they were doing all the professional development. I've tried to take all of that and streamline it into one spot. And so that's what we've tried to do with the calendars, and that's why it is what it is. So this is.
Can I ask with
Yeah.
no assumptions, no preconceived anything, what are the contracted teachers' hours on the days that they're supposed to be here? What time to what time are they supposed to
The
be here?
master contract for our teachers, it's 7 hours and 50 minutes per day for a teacher, on a 182-day contract.
So if they come in early, like
Generally,
it kind of.
7:50 to 3:40 is the contract hours for teachers. 99% of our teachers always work more than their contract. And it's one of those things that teaching is a profession, and I don't want our teachers to be in the mindset of I'm punching a time clock. That's a different type of profession. And so teachers need to have things prepared. And so on sometimes they'll be more prepared than others, especially your new teachers. They're gonna be putting in hours more than their contract time.
I guess
Anybody who's salary based is going to do that.
Rumorville, I had just heard they were supposed to stay till at least 4 o'clock. So that's why I just wanted to clarify, because if I wanted to talk to a teacher after school, if I had heard they're supposed to be there and they're not, I just wanted to clarify.
I don't know, one of our teachers, if you set up an appointment with them, that wouldn't be willing to stay. If you caught them off guard and you're just popping in, you might get them on a time where I have to go, or my car pool's leaving. or things
Well, I
like
don't want to request that they have to stay longer either. Like, that was the thing. I just didn't know, like, yes, I understand they have families too. I just didn't know what time they were supposed to stay till. If it was 4:30 and they didn't want to stay, then I would have asked questions. But if it's, okay, that's great. Thank you for that answer.
And that's why being able to set up an appointment with them on the professional days.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the time now that I know that I can set up an appointment and it won't push their
Yeah.
timeframes and whatever. So, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, that is good to know.
Right, It's been great feedback. We're gonna move on. We can always come back to that one there. Supplemental levy, this is just an informational part. We will be having our March 9th election. Julie is working on getting some flyers out that we will mail out to remind everybody. The supplemental levy is, in our district's been used for funding teacher salaries and insurance increases. And so, does anybody have any question on the supplemental levy?
What did it increase this year?
From 300,000 to 360,000. Our insurance rates were raised by 8% last year, which was equal to 60,000. So we're still barely covering everything on that.
But didn't you vote to change the insurance?
The insurance is, and it's going to be hopefully a savings on that. But even though, when you look at our funding for the last 2 years, we've been dipping into our general fund, and our balance is going this way. That's one reason why I eliminated 3 teachers last year, and tightened things up for us to hopefully get that out. The supplemental levy is really our only chance to be able to help offset that for us to be competitive with it. So I really support it. I know our community has been really supportive of this. Supplemental levies are probably in 80% of the districts right now. Idaho Falls superintendent, I read an article where they're running their supplemental levy. Really, supplemental is not supplemental, and it's only by name. It's basically an essential levy. Is what it is for us to maintain where we're going. If we did not have that, we would probably have to trim down and have a lot more split classes throughout the district. It's like we're right now as tight as I see that we can get it with things.
What do you say levies are used for?
So levies, supplemental levies can be used for salaries, benefits. They can also be used for curriculum, or any other thing to help have the school function. Technology are one. Our district has used it specifically for salaries and benefits.
Okay, thank you.
I know, as I talked with Salmon, I brought this up in other ones. Salmon runs a supplemental levy to help pay for their sports and activities, just because they're traveling all the time with that. And so that's something that this levy is not earmarked for. This one is earmarked for salaries and benefits for the teachers. And so if we were to ever do that in the district, my recommendation would be that we would run a secondary one that only has that. 'Cause I don't want to put sports in with teacher salaries, because I'm going to split the community. Anytime I bring up sports, we're going to have some people on different sides. And so right now, the supplemental levy is still going to maintain salaries and benefits,
What's the percentage to pass the levy?
51%.
Thank you.
Other questions on the supplemental levy? I do hope that, I know that as one of those things, everybody has the right to vote however they want, but this would be detrimental to our district if it does not pass. And so we would, if it does not pass, we would run it again in May, and if it does not pass in May, we would run it again in August. If it does not pass then, we'll see what happens in the district. So, so bond and possible plans for the next one. So as we've had the different discussions, I'm gonna bring up the bond discussion from December. Here's the history of our bonds and levies in the district. Prior to 2007, we automatically received this money from the local school district. Just because schools were funded differently back before 2007 with property taxes. And so prior to 2007, West Jefferson School District had this in place already where they were receiving it. 2007, when the law changed, where they moved it away from education being completely funded by property tax, and they put it on sales tax in 2007. And so, and then 2009, the recession hit and everything went down, and that's when all the other school districts started going back and having supplemental levies to increase. So really, we're operating on similar amounts that we did since the 90s. The difference is we have to come out and beg now for the money and ask for it from our local taxpayers, where prior to 2007, it was already part of the funding formula. And so you can see that the supplemental levy, so then a plant facility. These other ones are usually, if I remember right, can't remember, it's something to do with insurances on what we're paying for. So we have a plant facility and a bond. And the numbers that we have here for the total amount is $237 per 100,000. So right now, this is the lowest that West Jefferson School District has been taxing the local patrons in the last 15, 20 years. Part of that's because we're paying off bonds, we're paying off different things. Now, I'm stuck in a really unique situation as superintendent, because I'm operating the district and I'm doing it in a way where I know I have to rely on tax money. And if I'm looking at this from the mindset of how do I do my own house and how do I minimize everything, I don't have a revenue source to continue things. And so those of you that on your farms, and I don't know, not all farmers have, what do you call that?
Line of credit.
The line of credit where they're rotating that in and out. Some farms don't operate that way, but many do. I look at the supplemental levy, the plant facility, and the bonds as really the only way that I have to generate anything for the district. I don't get paid extra money for any of this at all. I don't get a bonus when anything passes. I actually have a lot more heartache worrying about it. But here's where I'm not sure what to do with our district moving forward. And I talked about this on the last one. When do we make the move to plan for the future, or when do I just stay with the status quo and just fix things up? I've talked with Mr. Soderquist about this both ways, and I can see both sides. I really don't know the answer, but it weighs heavily on me because as a superintendent, I'm hoping to stay here for as long as my kids are here until they graduate, which is 15 to 20 years. With that, in 15 to 20 years, what do I want to hand off to the next person that comes into this spot? And I really could just say, let's just bond and fix, bond and fix, bond and fix. But it's eventually, there's going to be a time where somebody says, we need a new high school. We kind of hear that already. We can't do that in one big plop. It has to happen over time. So that's where I'm not sure what the right answer is. I don't know if you guys know the right answer, but everybody has thoughts and opinions on where to go with it. So So right now, we are at 237. If I should be positive, when the supplemental levy passes in March, we will go back to 261. That's what even with the increase, it's gonna take us back to 261, which is the same as 1920. And so the 10-year average has been 350, 349, 348. So that's where I'm going, okay, so what do we do with the next step? With our bond projects, do we just remodel or do we remodel and build bigger? I don't know. And so some of you have seen this. I'm just gonna pull it up just to make sure we're all on the same page. One thought that, and this here is the amount that would cost. We would have to add 24 cents to these if we passed anything with a levy and a bond, because this came out before the
$24.
$24 to that. So if we wanted to pass a $1 million bond just for remodels, it's going to impact our taxes by 83 cents. But if the levy passes, also add $24, add 24 to that as well. And so it would take you up to roughly 340 anyway for a $1 million bond. A $5 million bond is going to cost us the same, but it's going to be longer time. And so people are going, okay, those taxes are here for a lot longer. I'm not sure where to go. I know I want to send out a letter survey to all the patrons, the voting patrons, those that don't have kids here. I want to ask the ones that are here in it. But I'm not sure, like when people say, well, how would we get a new high school? A new high school would have to happen over the next 50 years for it to happen. And what's happened at West Jefferson ever since the inception in 56 is we've just added on little amounts as we've gone, because we don't have the borrowing capacity to just hit it big. And so the next areas that need to be remodeled for classrooms, our science classrooms are ones that are really in need of being remodeled. But if we remodel extensively our science labs, we are just remodeling in the confines of a really old building. And you look at Packer's room right now, it can't get bigger. The electrical is very limited.
Yeah, I don't think you can even remodel them to a science
You couldn't.
deal or up to code.
You couldn't. And so that's where I'm stuck going, okay, so if we build labs on and you come out and you build a science wing where you have a lab between two classrooms, which would be a great use of space, have another classroom, potentially one more. This isn't to scale. These were just out for discussion purposes. And you come out and you build that wing right there. Then it's more expensive to not fill in this spot all at once. And then when you come to complete it, what do you do? And so, gym really should be a 4-letter word for most people, but some people think it's a great thing. And so I don't know where to go with this proposal. I do know that our science rooms need to be remodeled. I don't know where else we could add on to put them without it. But this would be the next stage really for a new high school to tear everything else down. We could come in and add 18 classrooms right now, right here, and say, oh, here's our high school. We have all these 18 new classrooms, but that means that we would have to be taking these down right now. And I don't think they're quite ready to take down. But maybe in 30 years, 40 years, they might be. And so where do you take that, step and that plunge without people saying, okay, Shane, we know that, Shane, you played sports. Just because I played sports doesn't mean that that's why I'm pushing this. I'm just really trying to think, what's the next step financially? What makes the best move? So then in 40 years, we could come and add classrooms here, and then you have a complete high school already built in there with that. And so that's where this whole process is going. As I've talked with Mr. Soderquist, he's like, we don't need another gym right now. But at the same time, if you don't fill that in, it's not the best use of construction money, because this whole edge right here on this side is made to extend out. And if you're gonna extend it out, you might as well extend it all at the same time, then you have all the same construction and things built into it. So I don't know, we have some thoughts. I'm just gonna hear some thoughts.
Well, it makes sense, because then you basically are paying for a wall on this end.
Yeah,
I mean,
Would you move junior high science over too? To be, like, would that just be a science wing? Have you thought that, or just,
we could. I haven't gotten that far ahead
or
yet.
just high school science? I just wondered, like, because the science that they have right now at the junior high is okay, like, it's not. I just wondered if that was, were there part of the same secondary? It'll be okay.
It could, it's something that we could look at and have all three of them over there. Yeah, those are the fine details that I haven't quite thought of. That's a good idea. I don't know, help me, you guys.
When you
Julie.
made the comment that we don't need another gym, it depends on who you talk to. Because there are a lot of people, a lot of patrons that were hoping that our last bond effort had a gym included because of, the hard time they have to get in to practice with all the different teams that we have, so.
And I've had some people, as I've shared this with the administrative team, we've kind of floated this idea at the last couple of PA meetings. The next steps from here really would be to see what the community would want, like what would they support. And I would like to do a survey where we send a letter out that has a self-addressed stamped envelope. People send it back that are the voters. But that's the part where I'm not sure where we go right now. And if we just remodel right now, I don't want to say just remodel, if the choice is to remodel right now, that's going to push this decision out 5 or 6 years. And so those of you that are sitting here, a lot of your kids won't even have a chance to even do this. This would be for the next generation as well.
So when are you wanting to vote on this, or?
The earliest we could would be August again.
Well, because my concern is just as a whole of the nation right now, like, we don't really know what's gonna happen with our money.
Yeah.
So it's hard to wanna be like, sure.
And has it ever been secure?
I would say it's less secure now than it has been.
I
Yes.
agree.
And so then maybe if that's what people say is, let's don't do that because our money.
Especially farming,
Right,
Like,
I was gonna say the
they
farming,
just
and I think that's why the last one didn't
froze up
pass, 'cause-
some subsidies that were supposed to help with the trade war that happened.
Yeah,
And
Bill Gates is buying all the farmland, like.
It is a different world right now.
We
than
are
it was
really
5 years ago.
concerned. And I think that's why it didn't pass last time. It had nothing to do with like you or the school, like people were just, they hadn't sold their crops, they didn't know. And we're gonna be in this exact same situation. So I'm not trying to down it.
No,
We
it's
vote in
a
November
valid-
instead.
The good part about having an August election for a bond purposes is when a bond is passed, then we meet with the financial group and they sell those bonds to investors. And that takes time and process to do all of that. So it takes about 2 months to make sure that all of the details of the bond come through. Whereas supplemental levy is from Rigby. We collect it from Rigby. A bond goes nationally and sells those nationally. Having it in August as well allows for the construction bids to be put in at a better time. And so then that means that the architects and everybody would get together, finalize things by November, and then in December, January is when the construction bids go out. And so for that purpose, August would be the best. So going back to that, saying, okay, so Janice, the cost is probably gonna be the same or similar, whether we do a short-term $1 million bond or a long-term $5 million bond.
Well, I think that's the part that maybe was missed, is that regardless of a big addition, we need a bond passed because we don't have the money to fix our school right now.
Mhm.
That's the main point. So whether it's this much or this much, something has to be done, because where the other one didn't pass, we've got, leaky roofs and different things. Like he gave a list the last couple PA meetings of things that have to be done that we don't have the money for. So regardless, and when we're talking about the
Yeah.
science classrooms and the remodels, we remodel those science classrooms to try and fix them. We can do that, but then that's still just a Band-Aid.
Right.
And that's why the idea of a science wing
It
was
is.
brought about, because
And that's where some people are saying, well, why do you want to build more if you can't fix what you already have? Part of the reason why we can't fix what we already have is just the funding process from the state has changed. And
the science classrooms we have, we can't fix to be an
yeah, and that's the
adequate
part where,
science lab.
that's where I'm at a crossroads going. We could start pumping money into these science classrooms. But if that's the case, then really this plan here probably should completely wait till the next superintendent. And if that's the case, 20 years down the line, let the next person figure it out. Because I can only manage and do with the money that I'm able to get. And if the money's not there, the purpose of this is to not tear the community apart. The purpose of this is to not, but I just don't know.
It needs to be completely transparent, like, this is, like what she said, like, okay, we need this for this.
Right.
But then when you start, like, I think this is great, I would love it, but when you throw that in, and people are like, whoa, wait, what? That's where,
Well,
Parts go up
every
and-
building still needs to be repaired.
yeah,
And this will have, everything that we add on to does have a cost. Eventually, there's gonna be a point though, that things will start getting ripped down. But if I wait, well, I don't say wait, if we wait completely until it just has to be ripped down, we're not gonna have enough to build everything that you need all at once. That's the dilemma I'm on. And maybe I'm analyzing this way too much. I shouldn't think about the future. I should just live for the now.
YOLO.
So essentially, it's a short-term loan to barely fix these and not get what you want. You're pumping money into something that's never gonna work. Or you get a long-term loan, your payment's the same, it's just for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
So it depends on when you want a short-term loan for something that's not
Because
really
these-
fixed.
This is not gonna go away where we have to ask for money to fix things.
Right. Basically, your payment's the same.
The
You're
payment's
signing
gonna be
up
the
for a 1
same.
year, a 10-year, but you're gonna sign up for a 1 year for every year for 10 years, or you're gonna sign up for.
And I know some
But you can be building, you're still gonna need that money to fix things while you're building.
So some school districts, what they've tried to do, as they've presented things to so where you can see that since 2011, we've fluctuated from 255 to 220, 237. What some districts have tried to do is they try to maintain a certain level. And they say, what we want to do is everything that we're asking you is we're gonna try to keep it about this rate. If we did that, if we tried to keep this at 350, let's say, or and don't quote me that that's what it has to be, but just let's say 350, and we try to keep it at 350 all the time. What happens is as property values increase, and yes, it's gonna be taking more money out of the pocket, but we're trying to keep it as level as possible. And so after 5 years, so if we get a loan, let's say we get a $5 million 30-year loan, and let's go to a 350. Let's say it's a 7.5 for 30 years, and it's 350, and we keep it at that level. In 5 years, we could come back and ask for maybe 500,000 to go do other remodels and keep it at 350 is what other districts have done to try to do that as a way to balance that. What West Jefferson has done is they get a loan and then they pay it off. They get a loan and they pay it off. So what happens is you balloon up to 481 1 year, and then it drops down, drops down, drops down, drops down. Feels good that we've got that 5-year bond paid off. But now here's the hard part. When I come back and say, hey, guess what? The buildings are still needing to be fixed. It doesn't go away. It's a harder conversation because now you're going, holy cow, this is going to impact taxes a ton. And so that's one way to think about it. But again, I know that this right now in our world, it's not settled. So
I know, I think you just need people to fill out the surveys and really get the patrons, get their opinions. I don't know, sorry.
Well, the plan wasn't to let that drop off. It dropped off because we didn't have a bond. I think there was an administration change, and it's tricky to run a bond because the plan was, to not let that.
So Jimmy, you were on the board on that. Was there a certain amount of that they were thinking, try to keep it at? During those discussions 4 or 5 years ago?
So what the discussions was to increase the community support and confidence in the board and the decisions that the district made. And so we did that with a smaller bond with the plan of then bonding for more for the bigger projects, showing that we were totally transparent. We spent the money exactly where it was supposed to be spent, where we said we were going to spend it. That's why we did a smaller one, because the bigger ones hadn't passed previously. And so we wanted to show, okay, hey, our district will spend the money exactly where we tell you we're going to spend it.
Right.
And so that's why we did. And it's easier to do with a smaller amount of money because you have less projects and less things. But the plan was then to continue but for it to not drop off, you have to be right on. And
You have to
just-
pass that
it
next
just
one.
got kind of missed.
Yeah.
But that was before you.
It was. Yeah, I came in right as it dropped off.
Yeah, because that was one of the big things is once it drops off, then it's really hard to get people to take a big bite out. I mean, when you look at it. So the intention was to never let that really drop off because to
Yeah.
bite back in, it's.
So I came in when it was 261.
So if you do the bigger bond and you do a bigger project,
Mhm.
what do you do to upkeep all of the rest of the older buildings? Is that in part of that?
You would have
bond?
you would have to have part of that enrolled into that.
And you
So it
still
would
have
be
some
part of
plant
that.
facility money coming in.
And we
So it
still
wouldn't
do.
be like, you'd be like, in 5 years, oh, we were just kidding. We have even more stuff to take care of now. We have to do another one for more. I think that's a concern that I kind of wonder, because you do have the big bond, but that will roll into everybody taking care of the rest of the facilities. Like that's part of that.
But
If there's something happen,
but being transparent, you take a bigger chunk out of keeping everything up to date. But the reality is it will never go away. Like there's always
I just mean like,
as
you're
part
not
of
gonna
this,
add like a
as
new
part
one
of
like
this
every
role,
other year.
whoever's here is going to have to figure out some way to have revenue for the district to operate. That's all there is to it.
It's like so you do the big one, but are we still gonna every other year have to do another more? Like, that's just the question, is like upkeeping everything else.
We're gonna
Well,
have to
yeah,
have
you
another
still have
bond
to
every
have
year. You gotta
So like
upkeep
the
it.
daily kind of
Not-
upkeeps is already figured into the budget
big one.
they have.
Yeah.
because
Okay.
you
This
get
big
money
one
for
takes
plant
care of the
facilities.
bigger
I-
remodels.
I would like
But there's still
to.
gonna be bigger remodels in the elementary.
But like the daily
or-
maintenance is like a yearly like upkeep, like that's all.
Mm-hmm.
This bigger bond takes care of the major roof need redone and would be,
And then the stuff that's getting repaired in that, everything else will be good for a while.
That's the hope
That's the
is.
idea.
that's how I understood it.
Well,
I know you never know, but
isn't
that's
there
just what-
like, that in the budget, in the plant facilities budget, usually a couple of classrooms at least a year get redone. So
Yeah.
you're constantly
updating
redoing and
things.
updating.
I could look at it though, if we have all the roofs done, the next guy or gal can worry about it then. Because those last about 20 years. It's so hard to know exactly what's the next step with the parameters that we have in our district when it comes to our bonding capacity, the age of our buildings. Even though we have older buildings, we have nice buildings.
They're so,
Like,
they've done such a great job.
they've done a
Mavis does
wonderful job.
Amazing.
A
That doesn't
wonderful
make it
job.
new.
I've been to some other districts with buildings that are the same age as ours, and ours are in fabulous shape.
Even newer buildings. I've been at some Idaho Falls that are newer here, and I'm like, wow, you guys, it's not that old of a school. It is hammered.
Yeah. Yeah, they have. So I think where I'm at right now, if you guys have other thoughts or, I don't want to get us into the political, like, I'm voting yes or I'm voting no, but I do want to send out a survey just to get a feel. If I do have support, I think we'll run it. And if we don't have that, I guess I just don't know. That's the part is I wish I knew a better feel. I don't know.
You don't know until you run it. You don't because
on the other side, if I look at the last one as what we learned from it, it didn't fail miserably. It actually was really close with a plan, and I'll be the first to say I will learn from every little thing. On one hand, I'm glad it didn't pass because I think this is a better plan than last time's plan after that. But even saying that, 60% that we received during a pandemic, during unrest, was really positive still. It really was super positive. And so
well, I think if you have a big enough base that is excited about it and can generate that excitement throughout the community, that's what will
Bigger buy-in.
well, I want to have buy-in, but I also want to do the right thing. That's the thing. Like, I know that we'll have some people that are excited about, oh, it's a gym. But I don't want to do it just because it's a gym. I want to do it because this is the next step that's best for our district. That this would be part of a plan for us to build on. That's the reason why I would want it to pass. Because I could talk to myself and say, yeah, we don't need another gym right now, but we would use another gym really well. Like that's the thing is it would get used really well. And it would be something that our community would be proud of, unless you voted no for it, but our community, for the most part, would be proud of having that. So that's the part where, but it does, I want you guys to know that I don't look at these lightly. I really don't. It stresses me out to know that this decision impacts the livelihood of many of the people that live here in the community. And so these aren't just little wild hair dreams that are coming up going, oh, let's just do this because wouldn't that be so fun? It's really what would be the next step for the district. And I hope I can portray that. And if it's not the right idea, I guess it would get voted down. So
I just have a comment, Shane, excuse me. I think one way to portray that, because I've been in other discussions where we talked about this, is to portray what is being done in the blue space in the high school. All of the problems that have been brought up by parents and teachers and how those problems can be alleviated if we do these little things even in the high school. When we talk about the gym, adding a place for the kids to eat, that excites a different group of people maybe than, oh, it's a new gym. Like those little things, when we talk about the special ed room getting remodeled, that excites me because I have a special ed child. So maybe point out all of those little things. There's lots of different groups of people that can be excited by this, even if they're not excited by the whole thing. I think that is something that is very important to portray. You can get the science people that are excited about doing a science, new special ed room, lunchroom, commons area for the high school kids, opening up a couple more classrooms so we have the space we need. All of those things I think are very important key points that I would want to portray, I guess, if it was me saying it. So maybe make sure that those points are made.
One of the biggest keys with passing something like this is having parent support and having parents who will go out and help get support from other parents. Because as district employees, we're not allowed to go out and say, vote for this. we can give the information, but we can't get people excited about it.
Well, yeah, well, he was just talking about his letter, you know, sending out, just say point blank, it doesn't have to be emotional, but these classrooms, we could change to this, just the plan of what this entails.
Right.
You don't have to put any type of excitement in the letter, just this is the information of what
No,
we're
I can't
doing.
put an exclamation mark. That's
No
too exciting.
exclamation, no smiley faces, no just kidding. I mean, if you're talking about we can't convince or whatever, well, in the letter, it can be very informative without being pushy. So if we're starting with the letter, that's just what I suggest for this letter is lay it out, include it in this bond.
Do not have it
These
be very
are
Yeah, don't make it
Explain it.
long.
Just get to your point.
Don't be
well,
too wordy.
these are the repairs that we have to do. Well, because that was
Bullet points.
a thing
Yes.
that was brought up last time though, is that there wasn't enough information about the bond. So if we're complaining there's not enough information, well, then when he gives us too much, we should be excited, really.
Throw in something random to get their attention. I don't know what.
Swimming pool.
I'm on
The swimming
camera,
pool
so I
would
won't
do
say
it.
stuff, but-
If you read this whole letter, come to the district office for.
Throw in a bar, they'll be, what?
I don't know, I just think explaining what the bond is gonna cover, yes, it will cover major repairs that we need right now. Plus, we could do these additional things. I mean, we don't have to do some of these, but this is the list that needs done right now. I asked Shane for a list months ago, you know, when we were talking about the bond, like what has to be done? And when he gave the list, it was kind of eye-opening, like this has to be done regardless. So I think that should be included so that the patrons know what we're paying for.
I like this.
And it doesn't have to be a 3-page letter. It was just, information is key, I think, to getting what you want, what we want from this, not what you want.
For sure. Okay, that's good. That's great input, you guys. Any other thoughts on the bond, possible plans? Safety planning, parent input. Okay, I want to make a list right now. What are some concerns that you guys have? What do you want us to do better? Go ahead.
During midday pickup for preschool and kindergarten, when I pull in 15 minutes early to pick up my child, all of the spaces in front of the school are full of vehicles just parked and empty. And in order for my child's teacher to like let them come to the cars, they have to like see our face. And if I'm parking across the street, then we're having kids walking back and forth across the parkway. I really wish there was a way that we could get people during that time to park on the other side. Teachers, if you're just parking your car the whole day, if we cannot park in front of the school, if it could just be across the way for the safety, because I've seen many little kids shoot out to go to their parents' car and the teachers try really hard to not let that happen, but it's happening. There could be a major accident there. People are parking in the ALC parking lot right here to try and get their kids. And there is plenty of room in front of the school for everybody to be seen, to be safe, if those people who are just parking their car for the day would just park over here. I've counted spaces. Usually when I pull in early, I've counted people in cars waiting for, usually there's 7 to 10 cars empty, just sitting there right in front of the school that could easily be parked across the street.
So you want those just drop off, pick up, drop
Drop
off.
off and pick
Yeah,
up.
I mean, and after school, I don't think it's as big of an issue, but those preschool and kindergartners during that time, it's pretty vital that they're not running across the streets or through the parking lots to find their parent.
But on that same note, I think it's also the parent's responsibility to, if you cannot park right there, get out of your car and walk to the school and pick
Well,
up
we
your kid.
do, but then you're still taking that child across the street and people are still backing out and pulling as you're walking your child across the street. I, as a parent, have almost been hit because people are trying to back out and go and do things. I do get out of my, everybody does. Like even most of the time, if they're parked on that end, in front of the school, parents get out and come. We're not just waiting for kids to run.
Well, just the way you said that, it just sounded like the kids were running out in the car without a parent, and I thought that's.
Well,
the
they,
parent's
but they can't, they're
responsibility.
kids. We're standing there waiting and they still run towards their parents. So if they see the car and the teacher doesn't tackle them, they have been known to take off, because I'll pull in and be ready to get out and kids will start to scatter as soon as they see their parents. So if we're keeping them from running across
I sound like herding chickens.
the street, that would be a good idea.
What if we had a pickup drop-off location in a different spot?
That would be great too, just to
Like that back
designate.
hallway, the first grade back hallway, go there, and the parent can pull around like that or
Turn
something.
around where the buses usually are, but they're
Yeah.
gone at that time.
I think that would be ideal too.
Let me
because,
explore that,
'Cause I've
I was
talked-
thinking the same thing.
I've talked with the principal, I've talked with the teachers, and they're like, well, we can't really make people park in different places. I'm like, well, if that was just the policy, but if we could just avoid all that, that's fine. I would just, the goal is a safe place to pick up those tiny kids.
Yeah, Tom's a good idea.
So I think
I don't care where it's at.
what we could do, this is a quick brainstorm.
Yeah.
This front part is for when parents come in and check their children out of the office. We could explore another spot where parents, if you're gonna pick your child up, you stay in your car. We have the teacher line up the kids, you pull up, we load your kids in, you pull off.
That sounds like Lincoln.
That sounds like a
That's
great plan.
Lincoln. I love that, actually.
You haven't been at Kennedy Elementary either, so.
Did you guys do it at Kennedy too?
Oh,
When my kids went to Sugar City, that's how we did it. There was just the pickup lane. So
Yeah,
Are you saying like pull in where the buses are at and on that side right there?
possibly by, I don't know,
The back?
But like go out
no,
the
this
side
is
door,
west side,
first grade
Where
hallway.
the first grade.
like Miss Coleman's like right
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
and then
on the
like go
west
out that door right there.
Either.
But there's a door between the
Yeah.
teacher workroom and the bathroom, that hallway right there,
Yeah,
there's a
that's
bigger
the one I was
gathering
saying.
spot
Oh,
that
yeah.
they could stand there instead of being right up against the building, like they could stand against the, if you wanted to do the first grade hall, but there is that double door between the
By the
workroom
workroom and the popcorn.
and the
room.
popcorn room.
Yeah,
They could totally go out there and stand right there and have the parents
And
come.
be able to watch inside the parents, and the teachers can
They
see through
could.
those windows.
yeah.
Could.
And the teachers that are parked there,
I'll
back
look
there
at-
are stuck, like they're not stuck, but they're parked there the whole day. They're not moving.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
go
I
back,
think there's
I'll
an
look,
option
I'll
there.
explore that, that's a good suggestion.
There is teacher parking back there too, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But they stay there all day. It's not like they're gonna be like in and out. Because some of the time, the
No,
people
it's
that come
just, you know,
visit in the
there's
front, and like
something
pick
there
up
where
kids,
it's not visible.
maybe they're just going into the classroom to help for an hour, and then the teacher said, will you stay a little bit longer? So you don't go back out and leave your car for preschool pickup.
No, you don't.
Like, I understand having a safe place for them, 100%, like it needs to be safe, but it doesn't always.
if we can't arrange a safer pickup place, then we would probably need to look at,
I have some thoughts.
okay,
Good.
thank you,
Okay, midday pickup. All right.
thank you.
There's an option.
Oh, this would be a good time for cell phone, safety planning.
Sure.
Sure, why not? not?
No, I feel like that's a safety thing.
If we're bullying, if there's. kids-
Honestly,
Yeah,
having cell phones in a class, like,
yeah,
people recording stuff, posting stuff, sharing stuff, that's a thing that happens. So I think that's
Yeah,
a great
it is.
segue. Why can we not be a zero cell phone in class district? With all of the Chromebooks that we have now, in the past, when I've subbed, well, I need this for an assignment, I need this for, to look up something, and that was a legitimate thing through, especially through the junior high. Like,
But now they
20% were looking at stuff that they were supposed to, which is still somewhat. But at this point where we have the money from COVID and the technology stuff, those Chromebooks in the classroom, the big screens in the classroom, there are other ways for them to look up information. Why can we not be a zero cell phone policy in classrooms?
Did Wanafil do that? Which did, there was a.
There's a
different
couple
district
districts that have done that.
Sand Creek Middle School, which is 8, I think that takes their 9th graders, I'm not sure if it has the 9th graders, it might be 6 through 8 or 7 through 9, I'm not sure.
Thunder Ridge was voting on it last year.
They're a zero cell phone school.
In the building.
In the
Like,
building.
they're not allowed in the building.
Like, they're not even allowed at recess with the kids.
Which would be
I-
great because-
Personally, Annie, I'm glad you're bringing this up. I would love it, but I also have to choose all my different battles as well. So here are some things that I hear from parents. What do I need to do if I need to contact my kid?
That's why we have sex.
Exactly, I know all the
So
different things, but I want to text them, I want to be able to do
This
that.
is 20 years ago, and we didn't
Isn't
have
it,
cell
isn't it
phones.
safer if I can text them? It's more convenient for me to be able to text them in class. Absolutely, it's more convenient. Those are the things that not all parents are gonna be thrilled about a zero cell phone in class district. I'm actually very open to that idea. So tell me why, from your perspective, why we need to do that from a parent perspective. So it's not,
Educationally.
so
There's
people
been
don't-
Studies done.
Which-
Studies,
I agree with you, but from a parent, I wanna be able to
oh,
share
from a
this.
parent,
Yeah,
standpoint,
no, I agree with everything you're
standpoint.
saying, but
We
it's
gotta
different.
convince the other parents.
It's
not fight
different
on it.
than if this is just Mr. Williams coming out
One
with one
hundred
of his
percent,
crazy
100%.
ideas.
Like, and I don't know if we address this as the school board, like, to have that brought up, or parents can present something to the school board saying this is what we support, get.
So,
I gotta
people's
ask real quick,
signatures.
because didn't in the last school board meeting, when you were doing policies and procedures, was cell phones not brought up? I didn't listen to the whole thing. I thought there was something about policies and procedures, we were talking about cell phones. What was that?
The parts about cell phone use is in regards to cyberbullying and
Okay.
and
not
those
for
kinds
use
of,
in
so it
classrooms.
wasn't
Yeah.
about
Okay,
cell phone.
all right, okay, I just wanted to
So
check if I missed
benefits
something
right
real
off the bat with zeros, when it comes to safety, there's going to be fewer opportunities for, I guess, kids.
Bullying,
Bullying.
looking at things, sharing stuff. It will still happen on the bus. It can still happen at times. But I know a fourth grader that had a phone last year that was showing really bad pictures to my kindergartner, which bless his heart, I love his family, but man, it could have been my kid too. You know what I mean? But
And that's happening right now in the 3rd grade too.
yeah, it's just a thing that happens, and it's always gonna happen. That's part of, and we do need to teach our kids to not look, like, we need to teach them too. But educationally speaking,
Oh, yeah.
it is handy to be able to get a hold of your kid, but if I text my 6th grader, and she actually keeps her phone in her locker the whole time, because she's actually is very, like most 6th graders, I can text my niece and she'll answer any second of any day, no matter what class she's in. And as a substitute, when I'm in there and the 4th graders are saying, can we listen to music while I do my homework? And they have their earbuds, like,
Okay, so again, educationally, you can't do those two things at the same time.
I listen to instrumental and it did help me study, but not when you're like doing assignments. Like, I think that there's a difference between actively participating in a class, and you shouldn't have to be telling a kid in 4th grade, take out their earbuds the whole time. Like, that's, if I'm doing it as a substitute, for sure teachers are doing it the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's in 3rd grade. I've had 3rd graders doing 95% come in with earbud.
So
Blows my mind.
your junior high and high school kids are going to hate this.
For sure.
100%, they're gonna hate it. But I think it's probably the right thing to do. But, so
But if
tell,
they can
so,
have it in their lockers and check the text, see if mom texts
Yeah.
them during their break in between. I mean, they don't have much of a break, but.
Well, it gets,
But here's the other thing, we gotta train parents, and I'm guilty of it too. Why are we texting our kids during school hours?
Yeah.
Because we have fallen into the convenience of,
'Cause we
oh,
think
hey,
of
I
it
forgot to
right
tell
now,
you that
it's-
you have to pick up the boys from piano
it's
today.
convenient.
It's super convenient, so you're going to have to teach every one of us, because I'm guilty of it, and then I'm like, oh, I should probably call the secretary on that, and so I do, you know, but I'm totally guilty of it as well, so you'd have to teach us all. Is there a chance of starting at like 6th grade and down to get rid of these kids?
Have a
Like,
6-year
start
transition.
it, yeah.
6-year
Yeah,
transition.
the transition of it or something, I mean, I don't know, but.
I think it's gotta be across a district policy. I think it goes into the new school year. It's a new policy. I don't think you can do like some and not some.
True.
That's harder, like, how to explain to one kid, well, you have to, it's like when the high school.
it's
has
the
most skills.
hats. It's the hats.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
true.
You know, it depends on the teacher, and so then,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just because I don't think they're separate and they're kind of correlated, but earbuds and phones obviously go together, but are we phones and earbuds, or what are we getting rid of both? Because my child asked for earbuds to use when she uses her Chromebook. So I just want to know,
So
like,
just the cell phones. If there's not a cell
because
phone,
they do use some.
they do use.
Yeah,
earbuds
like
and
a
headphones for
wireless
their
ones,
Chromebooks.
yeah.
so I just wanted to clarify.
And
like,
they do listen to music on their Chromebooks. Some of them do for sure. That's just a thing that they,
So you'll get more of that. but-
so more of that, but
So earbuds, we could still
But you're
say are
still-
okay,
anyway.
but are not
I'd like
okay.
to
I
see
don't know.
how it went. How did it go, like, at those other schools that we tried out?
I'm sure there was like tar and feather. Like, I don't know if they actually did it, they threatened, I'm sure.
But I'm sure they haven't repealed it either.
So
Yeah,
the
wouldn't they?
principal at the Sand Creek Middle School at the time, I'm not sure if she's still there. But I was at project leadership with her.
Ask her if she still has a job,
Yeah.
since she bans cell phones.
She gave us a report midway after that, and I was thinking, holy cow, lady, you are taking on the world. But she said that for the safety, when it comes to like kids feeling safe at school, the bullying and the intimidation did go down. Because even though the cell phone's not there, if you are the end of that joke, if you're the butt of that joke, you're done for the rest of the day when it comes to learning. Like if somebody came out and they said, oh, we just made fun of so-and-so and everybody's looking at the video, that kid is not going to be able to learn anything for the rest of the day. And then they're not gonna wanna come back to school. And
Well, it follows them forever.
yep, it really does. It never goes away with that. And so
I just think this is a beautiful time. Now that we
I
have
believe
more
she still does
Chromebooks
have a
and more
job.
things,
But
I would guess so.
this would be something, especially though, this is a good group of parents that we have here.
It's
and-
not just the parents, I think that you need to
Talk
maybe
to
talk to your,
student body president,
yeah, but it's not just,
kids.
and there are some teachers and,
Well, there's
So
a-
dual standard between teachers and students. I'm like, why does my student look on their phone sometimes? Because their teacher's looking on their phone the whole class period. So what's my student supposed to do while the
Good point.
teacher's just shopping on their phone?
That's a good point.
I'm like,
Posting videos,
yeah.
yeah, and they, yeah.
creating videos.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it happens.
Well, and on
I've-
that line
I've
too,
seen it.
Amy and I have
I've
talked
seen it.
about, why is my kid have to be on time but their teacher doesn't? Like, I don't wanna say that either, but if we're gonna be imposing standards, like, it's hard to, we're your examples
It comes
as
from the
parents.
top down.
We're
It's a
your
trickle down.
example, yep, administrators, parents, teachers, we're all the examples for these kids, and if we can't be the good example, then we can't expect our kids to be following that. I mean, we want them to, but so yeah, it can't be like, oh yeah, it's okay for, just like we can't say it's okay for some students and not others. If it's not okay for students, it shouldn't be okay for teachers. And not because I want to demean or belittle or anything, it's just,
I'm gonna follow up with
Yeah.
how Sand Creek Middle School's doing with theirs. And who said that they thought they heard Thunder Ridge?
I
or
thought
something?
Thunder Ridge was voting on it, but I think it was like last day, and I don't know.
I
what ended
think
up
it-
happening.
I think I have a friend in a district that, yeah, they're not allowed,
So, and also from a point from
So-
parents, if something goes wrong at the school, like that was an argument in Rigby, I know that Rigby met about it before, as one of the meetings. They said if something goes wrong, we want our students to be able to tell us. But on the other hand, if something goes wrong and the student's not aware of the situation, how many parents do you have show up at the school
Yeah.
if something's
them out.
wrong? Like, what, why is there no power? Why nothing happened? Like, that's,
Yeah.
because the kids are reporting
chaos.
every second of every day.
Oh, man. Yeah, mine keeps texting me, so get rid of them.
Janice, don't let her take it to school. Hello?
I know, right?
Anyway, Not to like open another cool thing for you. You're welcome, Shane. Mr. Williams.
I think this is a good thing though. I really do.
Yeah, I was like, stop.
Okay, other thoughts, safety? If you can't think of any now, anybody watching at home, email me, or if there's something here, send me an email. I'll put it in as I meet with the school board on that, but I do think these two are really good suggestions.
So just for parent information, the safety meeting actually takes place during executive session of board meeting. So that will not be something that's open to the public. So if there's things that you do want discussed in that meeting, we do need to have it brought to us prior to that.
So are you not putting together a committee for it?
You know, I want the committee to meet here and do it here, and then I'll take that and present it. And
So
then
this is the committee.
this is basically committee. Anybody that wants to be on it. And if you want to come back another time and discuss in more detail, I'll find time for you to do that. And that way, it carries a little bit more weight when I come and say, okay, this is what the PA committee said on the safety stuff. This is what we really need to be able to. So,
And what meeting is the safety planning meeting gonna be at the next board
At the
meeting?
next board meeting, so
Good.
executive session
Just
will
during
start at
executive
5.
session.
We'll have our principals and our SRO officer as part of that as well.
So maybe this doesn't fall under safety, but I know I've talked to you about this before about possible drug use happening in the high school during lunchtime. Is that something that the SRO is following up on? I talked to him about it too, and I didn't know if that was something that was
I'm sure,
being discussed.
it hasn't been brought to my attention on it. Are you talking more vaping or other drugs?
Other
Like in the school, or are they
going off campus and then coming back.
So I know they did that in 1994 through 97 when I was in school.
When you're there.
Oh, the
It was
freshman
like-
hall.
And I talked, well, I
I was
talked to
gonna
Mr.
say,
Circa
we always have
1998.
that group, you know what they did during lunch.
I talked to Officer
Yeah.
Keller about bringing the drug dog in, but he said it's so hard to get him to come to the schools because I think they have only one in the area. And anyway, he just said it was hard to do that, but I didn't know if there was other avenues that they could, that our district could explore.
You know, as you bring, there are some things that we've looked at where they do have some vape detection machines. They're about $1,200 a pop on it, and so those could be put into different places. the hardest part, and this is not throwing in the white flag when it comes to vaping and drugs, but we have really, the kids have so many different tools on how to be trickier now. Like there are YouTube channels dedicated to, this is how you can vape in school and not get caught. These are the things that you can do. These are the products you need to buy. These are the types of things that you do so you will not get caught in class. And so I know that drives some people crazy that maybe some political figures get their YouTube accounts taken away, but these YouTube accounts get to stay up and teach kids how to vape and get away with it. But it's tricky and it's hard for us to do that.
I guess where I'm going is, if a kid comes back from lunch and somebody suspects they're high, is there anything our teachers or a district can do to contact parents and say, hey, you need to come in, we need to have a discussion, you need to see your kid at this moment? Or is there a way that, I mean, I know our athletes are subjected to random drug tests. Is there any way to say, hey, something's going on here, we need to contact your parents and see if they will allow us to do a drug test, something like that? I don't know, I think it gets, it gets really sticky, and so that's, I didn't know by law
Legally, that's
what we
the
can
part.
do if a teacher suspects there's something going on and calls a parent and says, you know, can you come in? I don't
It does
know.
have to go, like, the policies that we're working on right now address some of these things, and it does have to go through very specific lines of communication and stuff, and there has to be reasonable
Right.
suspicion and
And if there's reasonable suspicion, then you could have, have their locker searched or their backpack searched. But again, you want to make sure you really have that suspicion, because if you search and it's not there,
Right.
now all of a sudden you're setting yourself up for other controversy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to follow up with, I'll talk with our SRO on that. See what we can do. 'Cause I don't know what they did back in the 90s.
Nothing? I don't think there's anything they could.
Well, when you're off
I didn't know what
campus,
they were
that's the other thing is, it makes it.
Well, I went to college and I'm like, that's.
I recognize
that's-
that one.
That's kind of a question too, is like, I'm not saying I'm for it or against it, but being an off-campus at lunch school, I mean, does that help solve part of the problem? Or do you just let it go?
What that does is it eliminates the access to some kids for that.
So they go in their
Yeah.
car during their break.
Yeah.
But that's on property, but
Yeah, it's on the property though.
we have to have probable cause to search cars.
Good. Thanks, Julie, for that. Other thoughts? Okay. I'm gonna move to the next one that we have. Enrollment and attendance projections. Actually needed to refresh that because this is just really an FYI. During this time of year, and I have these shared on the updated, refreshed agenda. So the planning for teachers and projections for, you can just go ahead and do that. Okay. Thank you. Let me just update that. In a nutshell, I've talked about this last year. The way we get funded for teacher units or support units comes by the size of the school. And so from the size of the school and your overall population, they basically say for every so many students, this is how many teachers we'll fund you for. And looking at our attendance by building, this is where I start to plan for next year. And I look at, where do I put kids? How do I match this up as well as possible? Thank you, Carrie, for doing that. So you can see on this one, when we get funded for a kindergarten teacher, they only count half a student because they only count as half for half a day. But let's look at the elementary support units, for example. Tarleton Elementary is 250 approximately, 200 to 260. So they fall within this range right here, where every 20 students can generate a teacher. And so every time we have a class lower than 20, we're not generating a full teacher salary. And it even gets worse than this, and this is where the confusion, they actually don't do it by, they do it by attendance and not enrollment. And so all of our attendance, so let's say for the sake of 20 kids, let's say we have 20 kids in a classroom, they base that off of your attendance. And even if we had 100% attendance, the highest that they will give us is 95%. And so that's just the way that they do the divisors at the state. So even if we have 20, we're only 20 students in there, we're only getting funded for 18. So we would technically have to have about 23 kids in each class to really fully support a teacher unit. So what that looks like is, you can see, is we're trying to figure out where do we put all the kids to maximize this as much as possible. When you look at Hamer Elementary, and this year they fall within 33 to 51, every 13 students generates a teacher. And so that's one where you're saying, well, why do the smaller class sizes in Hamer have a teacher with it? That's how that works. So they're funding their teachers. And that's why this year, Tarleton Elementary has a split 3rd and 4th grade classroom, because we were looking at the numbers, trying to figure out, and I look at the numbers as a district, and then I look at them at the individual schools and at each individual level. And so this is the time of year that I'm doing that. I'm bringing this up because, again, I'm just going to throw it out there. Hamer Elementary plays an important role in our school district by helping us keep the class sizes smaller K through 3 at Tarleton. That's really a benefit that it has. In past years, the 4th grade at Hamer has sometimes been moved to Tarleton and vice versa. The way that I am going to do this as a superintendent is I am going to look at this year to year and see where the support units fall. Where is it most advantageous for us as a district? The goal is to keep class sizes smaller as possible, K through 3. As they get into 4th grade, we can put more kids into classes if possible. The tricky part is we do have fluctuations in our classes. So you can see that Hamer has actually been larger than it's been in a lot of different years. You can see that they have a small 3rd grade class. This is something where I will have to look at that and see, well, where does the 3rd grade, as they go to 4th grade, how does that work for an advantage in the district? Has nothing to do with me taking steps to try to close Hamer School or shut it down or anything like that. That's not how I roll. That's not what I do. It has an important role in the district, but I'm going to be as open and upfront. This is why I do what I do and why I'm looking at these numbers. And this is not a board decision. This is a role of the superintendent to look at how do I financially put us in the best place to, one, make sure that we are able to function financially as a district, and 2, to do that in a way where the most kids benefit. But when you look at our Tarleton classes, let's see, you can see that when you have classes like our 6th grade class with 35 and then 31 and 35, it makes it a little bit tricky because we're not quite big enough to really support everything. And that's where, again, where the supplemental levy can come in on those years where we aren't completely able to try to fit everything in. The supplemental levy is another thing that gives us a little bit of wiggle room, that if we're over our FTEs slightly, we can use that supplemental levy to help balance that out. So that, I guess I didn't really mean to tie the supplemental levy back into that, but it did tie back in. The secondary, for secondary, which is 7th through 12, so you have your junior high and the high school. Those units, oops. When you look at the secondary, those units fall between 13 students to 12 students is where we fall at. So I believe they take our 7th through 12 to be able to do that where we generate it. So we've actually increased over the last 2 years our support units, and this is probably way too boring for you guys, but that's a good thing. Where this last year, because of finances, we had to eliminate 3 positions in the district. We've put it down where we are functioning right where we need to go. The tricky part for this next year, as I'm just in the initial stages of looking at it, are our class sizes. Some of the reasons why these class sizes are bigger is because we've had people from out of state move here because we're in school. And as soon as their states open back up, there's a good chance we would see, 5 to 8 students leave because of that. And so, again, it fluctuates where we have 20% of our students coming from out of district. It's important to have those out of district students come in and be able to help out. But I just wanted to share that I am looking at that now, moving forward, and really the place where I see that this could have an impact as I'm looking, elementary level, Hamer Elementary, 4th grade. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that as it connects. When I look at our 5th and 6th grade classrooms for next year, this year we're operating on 3.5 teachers. I probably have to push that up to 4 next year, just because the class size is getting bigger. And especially where our 5th grade, for some reason, started the year and we've had like 8 kids move into that class.
It's huge now.
It's huge, which is a good problem to have. But I recognize that, and I know that there are some issues because of that. But this is the time that I take that into consideration to try to do that. So I'm looking at finding a way to get 4 teachers into that level. And if there's a way to hire like a 3rd teacher to come and help in the junior high, that's what I'm kind of looking at right now. So that's why I wanted to share that with the PA meeting when it comes to support units, because number one, that's my role as a superintendent to look at that and make those changes and movements. It's not a board decision on that. That's why they've hired a superintendent to come in and do that. But it's also, I'm not looking at this as a way to try to slight one school or grade one way or another. It's really just to try what's the best way to fit it in. So Annie, you had a comment.
Would there be any benefit to moving 5th and 6th back to Hamer? Like where those are bigger classes? They used to just be 6th, and now the 6th was part of junior high last year, the year before. Now 5th and 6th is separate from the junior high.
Let's look and see.
So they could be separate, if I don't know if that makes, because I know that 4th grade too,
What you would-
next year's 4th grade is.
What that would do is the Hamer would probably support those units for that teacher to support it. But what would happen is, because those numbers are now in Hamer and not in Tarleton falls below the 20.
But then you wouldn't need the 4th maybe. I was just saying, like, if you're like at 3.5 teachers, maybe you would only be able to need the 3 if you had those 2 grades in.
Not next year, not for 5th and 6th. But here's the other part. We would have to make it mandatory that if you lived in that area, you stayed in that area. And that's going to be another whole discussion where you have, families where, like, my family,
All the kids in one school, or like
Yeah.
a parent works.
Mhm.
That's, it was just a question. Like, I didn't know if that was.
Yeah, I've looked at those. I've considered that. And it's still always a consideration. It could happen. But just because it fixes one solution, sometimes it creates another. And as I have to look at it from the whole district, saying, well,
I'm
you
totally good
know,
either way. I don't have a kid that age, but I just wondered if that's, because I know those are, I think the 4th next year, Hamer's a little smaller, I think.
Yeah, and I know that our district's in PTSD a little bit anytime I say the H word, because people think, oh no, you're trying to shut it down. Like, it couldn't work. If we had to shut Hamer down, we would have 25 kids in kindergarten classes. And that's not good for our kids. And if that was down, we would have to have more room somewhere to do that. And so, will Hamer be there forever? I don't know.
For a while though.
But for a while,
Yeah.
I don't see it. I see it playing a crucial role. And yes, there's a cost with every single building that we have. That building has to be repaired. There's a cost that goes with that. And so, if we took that building and completely shut it down and we just brought everybody down here, maybe we'd lose some kids. Some kids would probably go back to Du Bois. There's a lot of different things that you look at, that it doesn't completely solve the problem. So for me as a superintendent, that's not on the table right now, but I look at everything every single year. And if there is a time where we feel like that building is not useful for the district or helping, it's gonna be useful for those kids up there. That's a major decision. A major decision. I don't think it's as easy and simple as like somebody from the outside looking in. So I've talked with other administrators who are like, oh yeah, from outside of district.
Yeah.
Like that's an easy thing, but you don't see how it impacts down here. Some years, like the last 2 or 3 years, probably would have worked. But with this class that's coming through at Hamer right now, in kindergarten, like that would really throw off the sizes down here. So
How many kids do we have not in school this year that are just doing remote or homeschool, maybe because of COVID, that aren't here as compared to last year?
We had 5 drop out.
Because I know at least
approximately
like 4 or 7 from Hamer.
Like high school,
I'm just wondering over here.
is that where you were talking
the
about?
the one Hamer family I think is 4 that I know of. That I
And there's
know
another
of.
family that's got 3.
Yeah, there's the high school dropped, and I know that there are some families that are concerned about COVID, but we've actually increased our overall enrollment in the district.
I'm just wondering if it'd be interesting to know
If
if
they
they
were
will
gonna
bring
come
their
back
kids
next
back.
year,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and they might.
if it was COVID related.
Yeah, that's so hard to know.
Yeah, you don't know.
But Julie, question on
So
that.
are the numbers that you had here, are they February numbers or were they at the beginning of the year?
No,
or
this,
when was
I
it?
updated this morning. All these
Okay.
numbers right here were updated
So
this
some
morning
of these
from
numbers are some of the kids that have come
Mhm.
from other states that are here because of their schools being shut down. So
Yep.
some of
Yep.
those.
and I recognize that.
But also council ones that come from out of districts, they don't like theirs too. So.
Yeah. Pam,
So since you have to think about this anyways, how beneficial is it to have the 5th graders split into 4 teachers? And let me just explain, I've been told it's a prep for them to get ready for junior high. Well, the 6th grader is no longer in the junior high because that's been split, so it's now 7th and 8th graders. It concerns me that at the 5th grade level, their maturity and just they're not ready to split and grasp that. To split and be organized, to be able to do this for this teacher, and do this for this teacher, like, I just wonder, maybe feedback from your 5th grade teachers, if that's been a beneficial thing or not. As a parent, I would say, I would like that to go back to a classroom where one teacher's in charge of those kids, and I know they've split before, like between 2, and I've had kids in that, and I don't see that a problem, but I don't know. I just don't know if that's been the best thing for the 5th graders to split amongst 4 teachers. Or their maturity level and just, what's the word, their brains. I just don't know if they are
so
consistency maybe, I don't know. But also the 6th graders is no longer the junior high, so I would say have the 6th grade be the level that they're preparing to be in the junior high, like split it that way, if that makes sense. I don't know how to really explain this, but since you have to look at this anyways, I would wonder if you could consider putting that 5th grade back.
that's the first I've heard from a parent. I've heard the opposite as well.
Okay,
I've heard people think that it's very positive that the kids are able to go in and handle it. Where I think the stress is right now hitting our 5th and 6th grade is that in the afternoon where I have Mr. Mackey teaching the core class in the morning, so he's the 4th teacher where they have that equal split. In the afternoon, those classes all of a sudden get bigger because Mr. Mackey goes and teaches elementary, and that's the part that I think is where those new students have come in. That's where I think that stress is at, and I don't think that's running as well as it could.
Yeah.
So if we had 4 teachers that were completely assigned to them, the afternoon would keep those class sizes smaller still, and that's the part where I'm seeing it. I know that,
I don't know, it's a lot.
and just because I came from Madison doesn't mean that I do everything that way, but I was a middle school principal. What are you asking for?
Oh, it's down on
Well, if
Pine
you had
Street.
4 teachers, I was wondering how many kids were in 5th grade?
48.
It's for 5th
So
and 6th,
four-
there's 4
four-
teachers.
Oh,
for
5th and
5th
6th.
and
Yeah.
6th combined.
Yeah, okay.
And so they rotate. So your 6th grade is split in half.
Gotcha.
But next year, it's not gonna be 31, it's gonna be 31 plus 8, so you'll still have, so we're gonna have 39 and 48. So we're going to need 4 teachers there in the 5th and 6th, for sure.
Well, I have a issue with it too. I don't think they're having enough time in their core classes. Like math they may have moved it to 50 minutes, it was 45.
The history teacher has
Yeah.
to leave early enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that could be definitely fixed with 4 teachers there next year. But I was saying, Madison Middle School does run it that way, where they're 5th grade, they come in, they're set on a team and they rotate. And it's worked well for them. Not trying to say that I disagree with your opinion, because from your viewpoint as a parent, you know, I'm sure there are some that feel the same way you do as well,
Yeah, just consider.
for sure. Yeah. So any other questions or comments on the enrollment attendance? This is the time of year that I start looking at that. Okay, all right. Question and answer. I know we hit the cell phone. Anything else on the cell phone? Not that.
Yeah, sorry, remember that's a serious one, but
Great, good suggestion.
I just love seeing all the new technology. Like for a comment, like with the new big boards in the classrooms, I love seeing the Chromebooks. I love the students being able to say, okay, I'm just gonna go to Mr. Writings and go get the Chromebook to get it for that class. I also like when I have stuff in the 6th and 5th grade, if they finish stuff, the teachers have been really good to say, okay, you can work on the other teacher's stuff for this classroom. So that is a plus. On the downside, why did they not get enough time to finish that assignment? Because when the whole class says, we need to finish this book report for this classroom, can we do it now that we finished this handwriting assignment? Like it is nice that they can do that, but why do they not get it done? Anyway, maybe there's not enough time in that core math stuff, but anyway. Really need it.
Wondering with your cell phone thing, if you have to start with little steps, like by following policy first. And then if policy,
But everybody sees policy so much different. It's like
that you're not, that's why it's policy.
I know. Choir,
You take it away.
preaching. I'm just saying.
But that's the thing, like, you know. Yeah. Before you,
I just want to argue with you.
people, I know, you know.
I know.
Thank you for taking some time to come here. Other thoughts, questions?
We'll say one more thing on that cell phone policy. It'll have to be communicated to coaches as well. Because my daughter doesn't have a smartphone. She has another cell phone and she doesn't carry it with her. So when they text and say, well, we're gonna be in this gym today,
Oh,
and she
yeah.
shows up at the other gym, I don't understand why they can't have the office announce it.
Yeah,
It's like, well, why didn't you check your cell phone? Well, I'm not even supposed to have it in class.
I think
So,
that goes back to the dual standard
yes.
answers on phone
Yes.
comment.
So,
Absolutely. Yep. Very good point. All right, okay. So just oh, do you have a thought?
Well, we had a booster club kind of meeting, so I just thought I would bring it here to let you know that we're looking at things to bring more positivity to our sports programs in our community. And so we just had a really good visit. There were 6 people.
Good.
And so we'll be doing more that way. This year has been really, really hard because.
Yeah.
It's been a good 2-week run. I've enjoyed the last 2 weeks.
Right.
I feel like I'm basketball games and stuff.
So is the booster club just people that are invited, or is that open up?
because
to
some of us haven't a
Open.
clue about what booster club, like there's like, we say there's no information here, there's no information.
Well, exactly, which is why we met. And we're gonna have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. So if you're on any social media, if you'd like to be part of it, message us. We can let you know when meetings are going to be, but it's going
Oh,
to
awesome.
be, it's gonna
It
be
would be nice. I mean, I
Could-
could have graduated this
Activities.
year, so 6 years of high school and I
with
have
nothing.
nothing. I have no idea what
Also the
booster club's supposed to
activities,
be.
like we wanna recognize FFA, FCC, like those different,
Perfect.
all of our kids are involved in so many things. And that's part of a perk of having a small school, is that they get to do 85 things.
So,
We'll recognize that.
so booster club, so it sounds like Jimmy, but
I
Andy,
know.
you're getting excited about it as well.
Janice and Pam.
And Pam. Well, we just were,
It's for everyone.
Everybody.
we were just
But how
trying
would
to,
we know?
So
that's what we're
Well,
doing.
That's why we're telling you right now.
can I invite a representative from the Booster Club and put you on the next school board agenda if it works on your schedule? During the informational time, just to come in and say, all right, I'm using this as a platform just to say, we're looking for members to come,
Yes.
or,
And just so you know, it has been around. We did membership drives, we did other things when your other kids were in there, and we couldn't get
Yeah,
people to pay memberships. We tried to run it like the PTO, and that didn't work, so we've tried different things.
It's been like Lost in Neverland, kind of like it for a little bit. So we're going,
But
we're wanting to let
it's-
people know.
But your kids have benefited all this time because they've gotten money for meals when they've went to state. They've gotten a shooting machine. They've gotten, the wrestlers got a new mat.
gorgeous mats, by the way, too.
They look really nice.
Yeah, they look really nice.
So the kids have benefited.
Well, I'm glad,
I
I'm
wasn't
glad.
disagreeing there, I just, like I say, I've never heard.
Yeah, I
even
don't know
given
anything
any-
about it, like, we've lived here for 8 years and I've never been informed, like,
And-
what it is, what
Welcome
it
to the
does,
new.
what it-
And I
welcome to
didn't
the
know
new-
either, but.
And
it's
Booster
like-
Club, I know exactly how you feel, because you're there and
I'd like to
sometimes
know.
it's hard to
I
get
can say
out the
what I want.
information.
Well, and we did a bunch. The other thing is when we did, we worked really close with leadership and AD, and then it got to where that wasn't as easy to do. And so we
It's been a
had to
different couple
step
years, yeah.
back.
When
Which is
Holland was
fine.
here, we did do an all sports, we helped the all sports banquet that was.
That's why we don't know when our asking
And we wanted to
questions.
do
And we-
that again.
We love.
We
stuff like
purchased
that.
letters, so every athlete should be given a letter. They should not have to go ask for them. We purchased over 100, right?
Awesome.
That's
Last year.
interesting, because cross-country had issues with letters and said they weren't being given
Well, so
because
did
somebody
football.
said
They
they
were told
weren't
they had
allowed.
Yeah,
to
so
have
nobody's
any
gotten them,
letters.
so Booster Club bought them. The AD has them.
But the kids still didn't know.
Well, then we need to discuss that because he's the one that said cross-country couldn't get one.
We bought letters.
That's, thank you.
Awesome, okay.
So is there like a meeting where you're like, hey, this is what Booster Club does? Because it hasn't been around to no fault of anybody.
That's,
I just don't know anything about it.
look for
so
the
I'd love
Facebook
to
page
support
and the
it.
Instagram
I
page.
didn't either, that's why I reached out.
Like I
and
say,
said,
not saying
"Tell me
like,
what this
oh,
is all about."
like you guys dropped the ball. I just have no clue what it does.
So
what
let's
it
search,
means.
it's WJ Booster
So
Club.
we had that Booster Club, if you want, Julie, you could probably share that out on the school one, just to get it out
I'll
there.
send you a link. I'll send you a link and to the Instagram page because we want the kids to get on it. We want them to be excited.
Yeah, we would try at least a couple times a year and send out, on when the district had a different, it was a page, it was set up different. But we would say, hey, we're getting together,
Is it just this one?
anybody come and help.
Just WJ Booster Club, or is this an
That's not
old
it.
one?
That's not it. That's an old one.
Okay,
And so from what I
the old
understand, the
one might
Booster
need to be
Club is
shut
to
down so
boost
it's
the
not
morale,
confusing.
boost the school spirit.
You just have to see
Because
all of
I am a
that,
part of
right?
this Booster
Wait,
Club
wait, wait.
group.
We don't know where that came from.
Okay,
sure
my
which one
kid
that
just
one
went to
is.
the library without me.
All
so
right.
thank you
We'll-
very
we'll
much.
send
So
it
we're
to
gonna, we're
Tony.
gonna close, any
Yeah,
other
those are the
final
ones.
thoughts on,
Well, I just have
Ha.
a comment, like,
Yeah.
I appreciate more information being posted on the pages. Cause I know, like, people have been getting, oh, just go look on the website to find out the information, you know?
when you say post on the pages, you mean like Facebook?
Like,
Yeah, the
on
Facebook
social media
pages.
pages.
I appreciate that, because you know what? I kind of just live my life. I don't really pay attention unless something major happens. So like when 4-day week happened and a lot of people were like, hey, what? You know, it's just stuff like that. Like more people are on Facebook or a text come out or an email.
Yeah.
That's what I would just appreciate. And I noticed like more information has been coming and I appreciate that too. But that's something that's good for me and I know is good for a lot of parents because I've sat through meetings and some parents have started texting me like, hey, what's going on? So I had to relay the entire meeting. I'm like, well, if you want, well,
You can come to the party.
Sounds like things I've done for other people, Janice.
I know. Hey, I have a life.
Very good, that's why I invite Julie in here to help, with those types of things and we'll keep working towards that.
Yeah, but you know, so maybe a couple days before with PA meetings, because sometimes Facebook stuff doesn't show up. Like right when it gets posted.
So the algorithm of Facebook is sometimes weird that it doesn't show up as a thing, so we still have to go look, but it was nice that like a week ago, you posted that it was gonna be, and then a couple days, that was nice, because you don't always
Yeah, when it's a little bit ahead of time.
It
And
was
I've
nice.
got the opposite of that too. I'll hear people say, well, you posted that and then by the time it came around, I forgot. So it's hard,
You're gonna have
it's hard
both.
to know. I'm not gonna put it on there 14 times.
Well, and just because
Sign up for the notification.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. We'll end